So some countries decided to do the smart thing and lower their tariffs on us, others not so much. China was one of the haters. They launched a 34% tariff on us today. Now, Canada and Mexico are also imposing some additional tariffs after agreeing to lower some, and that's against America just in response to us just charging them what they charge us. And we tried to warn them today, too. Look, Canada's unemployment ticked up because of this. Look, folks, tariffs work. After all, if they didn't, 170 countries wouldn't be imposing them on us, China being the main one. But since China was admitted to the World Trade Organization back in 2001, they have been ripping off American workers. Trump has been calling this out, too. This was Clinton's baby, and finally it happened in Bush's first year. But this cut, when they joined the WTO, China's tariffs on imports from 24 to 7%. And what happened? Sure, it did slash some consumer prices at big box stores like Walmart. It flooded their shelves with cheaply made goods. But in the first 7 years of China joining the WTO, Walmarts and all this other stuff, Chinese good on their shelves, increased by 50%. It means 50% of American-made goods just vanished off their shelves. Imagine that. All while Americans lost our manufacturing jobs. Over 3.7 million in 17 years. And the middle class that the Democrats claimed they cared so much about completely stagnated. From 2000 to 2016, you can see on this chart right now, before Trump 1 came into office on that red line, the median household income only increased for the middle class by $1,000 a year while adjusted for inflation. The income gap, though, hugely became bigger. But in the same time, Chinese imports increased to America by 500%. And we weren't putting tariffs on them, or at least not adequate ones. And there used to be a common consensus about how bad this was. Nancy Pelosi used to think that tariffs were the way to go.
How far does China have to go? How much more repression? How big a trade deficit and loss of jobs for the American worker? And how much more dangerous proliferation has to exist before members of this House of Representatives will say, I will not endorse the status quo?
Obama even criticized Mitt Romney for not being harsh enough. Obama put tariffs on another country for importing cheap tires into America.
We had a tire case in which they were flooding us with cheap domestic tires or cheap Chinese tires. And we put a stop to it. And as a consequence, saved jobs throughout America. I have to say that Governor Romney criticized me for being too tough in that tire case.
Save the American workers, he said. Nothing else they did save the American workers. Here's far-left Bernie Sanders criticizing Republicans for allowing companies to the ability to produce our products overseas.
Further, what they have said is that we need to not worry about manufacturing in America, because what we should establish is a policy of unfettered free trade. We don't need tariffs. What we need is to allow corporate America the freedom to throw American workers out on the street.
He was literally making exactly the same case Trump is making. The same case Trump has been making for 40 years. But fast forward to today, what's Nancy Pelosi saying? Here. Look at her Twitter. Donald Trump's reckless tariffs will cause chaos in our economy, raise prices for consumers, and hurt hardworking American families. This is not a strategy. It's the largest tax hike on the American people in history. From the woman who passed the Inflation Reduction Act that spiked inflation through the roof, and she's never met a tax hike she didn't like. In fact, all the left is against. Everything they're against is because Trump wants to do it. And all of a sudden now, because Trump is actually doing it, tariffs are bad? I mean, this shows you that they don't actually care about governing this country, but rather just making political standoffs. You can pick an issue on this. Immigration is the clearest one. Barack Obama.
And we should continue the work of fixing our broken immigration system to secure our borders and enforce our laws and ensure that everyone who plays by the rules can contribute to our economy and enrich our nations.
Boy, did he change his mind on that one when he built the family separation cages. Bill Clinton said the exact same thing.
We are a nation of immigrants, but we are also a nation of laws. It is wrong and ultimately self-defeating for a nation of immigrants to permit the kind of abuse of our immigration laws we have seen in recent years, and we must do more to stop it.
Yeah, in fact, Democrats are pretty much universally having serious concerns about illegal immigrants defrauding our Social Security programs, like Chuck Schumer.
Over where we go, people say, well, why can't you stop illegal immigrants or others from coming here? And the number one answer we give our constituents is when they come here, they can get jobs, get benefits against the law because of fraud.
A few years later, he even fought back against normalizing calling them undocumented.
When we use phrases like undocumented workers, we convey a message to the American people that their government is not serious about combating illegal immigration.
Donald Trump is like the one guy who's been consistent on all of his policies, going back 40 plus years. And 40 plus years ago, he was a Democrat, if you recall. So you want to talk about him not leaving the party like Elon Musk? The party left them. There's no consistency with Democrats whatsoever. And if you want to have your mind blown, consider this. I said yesterday, this market turmoil is all temporary. But the other thing that I find actually temporary and honestly hilarious, I anxiously await all the people criticizing Trump's current market slide. Like, I await their applause when it shoots back up in a few months, because that's what I'm predicting. Also, it's super ironic to me that the Alanis Morissette song pops into my head when I'm saying this. But when all the Democrats are always talking about, like, oh, we need to eat the rich, evil people, then why are they so concerned about the stock market sliding? Well, I mean, we know why, because it's a chance to take a shot at Trump. But I would actually have thought that Bernie Sanders would be sitting there in his mittens clapping about this, because this little market dip, okay, because the wealthiest 10% of Americans hold 95% of the wealth, the people that Bernie always demonized. Much of it is held in the stock market. You would think the left would love this stock market being hit right now, but no, they're criticizing Trump for it. This dip in the market is short-term pain for predominantly rich people, which the left seems to hate, except when they're donating to their campaigns. Look, folks, if you have a 401k invested in the stock market, as long as you don't need it by the end of the week or the month, you're going to be fine. In fact, I wager in a couple months you're going to be very happy with it. Also, what I find super rich too is, remember when the left said the whole time the stock market was going down under Joe Biden, that, the president's not in control of the stock market? I'm just pointing out the obvious inconsistencies with the left narrative here. Look, Trump's policies are already having a positive effect on the economy. The legacy media is only focused on the stock market. In fact, this was the headline too, by the way, today. Defying critics. You're going to see a lot of that. Between December and January, Joe Biden cost American jobs, 15,000 American manufacturing, gone, vanished. We were told they weren't coming back. But just 30 days into Trump's presidency, between March and February, he was able to reverse that and add 9,000 manufacturing jobs that we were told were gone. He took egg prices down by correcting trade practices, got them from Turkey. Oil is at its lowest point in 4 years. As we mentioned yesterday, diesel is like as much as a quarter of the expenses of many businesses here in America. As of this morning, jobs expectations exceeded predictions by 88,000. Adding 228,000 jobs. And we're talking about real full-time jobs. We're not talking about part-time lifeguarding duty jobs that Biden was using to cook the books, that we're also using government jobs too. The jobs that are being created right now are private sector jobs. 209,000 increase in full-time private employment, 13,000 increase in construction jobs. And that was after all the deportation that libs were like, oh my gosh, you're going to halt the whole industry. No, wrong. In 22,900 in transportation and warehouse jobs, 23,700 in retail jobs. And all the while, we had a decline of 4,000 government jobs. 4,000 people are leaving the federal government who were previously taking money from taxpayers. They're now out in the private sector producing revenue. Even the people predicting a recession, Goldman Sachs, what all these big banks, JP Morgan, I don't think they actually believe it's coming. I don't understand why. And I'll tell you, they're willing to spend a little bit of money to ensure their investments through puts and shorts and things like that. But none of these major firms are actually selling their assets. They aren't selling their stocks. If they really believed the recession or the depression was coming to the tune of 60% likelihood, as they say right there on the headline, they'd probably start selling their assets. But they're not. And you're going to continue to see headlines just like this, like I just showed you about Trump's economy defying critics, because the critics, like Kramer over on CNBC, have no idea what they're doing. 30, 60, 90 days from now, this is probably all going to get wrapped up on the trade stuff, and everything will be better.
He loves the Constitution. He fights for what's right. He hates the bad guys. He's a freedom warrior. He's your freedom warrior. Watch Carl Higbie every weekday on Newsmax.